All right, guys, Luke Kayam here. I'm joined by a few of our Fittest Tribe Alive members, and we are discussing the next month of our online digital strength and conditioning program. So this is month 4. So before I go any further, let's just talk about the first couple months and how the first 2 months have been body weight. It can be done from anywhere at any time. And remember, once they go into the library, you can always go back and use them. So whether you're deciding to start over or you want to just pull some body weight training assignments out from an older month, or you have your favorite or you have your go-to, those can always be used. Month 3 is the first time that we introduce any kind of equipment, and it's as simple as a jump rope and a kettlebell. So if you are starting to build your home gym up, you can have those 2 pieces of equipment. You can get them in the garage for as little as probably $50 to $65 total. Now, starting month 4, this is the first month that we're introducing our strength programming of 5-3-1. And you're going to see a separate attachment in the library that not only has the training assignment that I'm going to share with you, but also has the 5-3-1 principles. And they're based off of you finding a 1 rep max or a safe 2 rep max or a heaviest weight in 4 or 5 of your basic strength lifts. The back squat and the front squat, the strict press and the bench press, and of course the deadlift. Those are all barbell movements. It's all considered what we call static strength. So single lever or single joint movements done at a very basic speed, not going too fast, not going too hard, not going too heavy. So once we found out what our 1RMs are, what our 1 rep maxes are, we then go and take 90% of that 1 rep max, and we input those numbers. And then over the course of 4 weeks, week 1, you do sets of 5, and again, it'll make more sense when you see it. Week 3, you do sets of 3, and week 3, you do sets of 5-3-1, and then on week 4 is what we call a deload week. So we introduce that, and I'm going to start sharing this screen now so that you guys can see exactly what I'm talking about. And we are going to share the screen. Okay, guys, so if we look here, and there we go. All right, here we go. So you can see here we have 7 days a week. We have 4 weeks in a month. Of course, if there is only 28 or 30 days in the month, we just run it back. So you would go 28 days here, and you would run it back 29, 30, and 31. Here's the other thing, guys. If you are looking at this not from a calendar standpoint, so let's say you don't start this on February 1st, let's say you start this on the 15th or the 16th, or you start on some time. You just start wherever you want to start. The purpose of having back squat as your day 1 is this is set up as a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday schedule, especially here with Sundays being your rest days and your recovery days. Okay, but again, you're going to decide based on your training, on your performance, on the time you have, on the fact whether or not you're traveling or at home. You may end up doing day 1, day 2, resting for a day, resting for 2 days, and then coming back in day 3, right? Whether you do 3 days on or 1 day off, or 2 days on or 2 day off is completely up to you. So you see here, day 1, we have back squat. 65% of 90% of your 1 rep max, right? So we find your 1 rep max. Let's pretend it's 100 pounds. We take 90% of that. We're now working off of 90 pounds. We then take 65% of that 90 pounds, and you would do that 5 times. We then add 10% to that. You would do that 5 times. You then see this plus sign. The plus sign means on the 3rd and final set of all of these lifts, you're going to do as many as you can, safely and effectively, right? We say safely and effectively, meaning if you can do 29,000 back squats at your body weight, I don't want you to do 29,001 because you could get hurt, especially if you're a beginner, especially if you're a first-time person. So the word plus is used there just to ensure safety, right? But looking at this as a progressive program, week 1 is 5s, week 2 is 3s, week 3 is 3s and 1s. Looking at it from a progressive standpoint, your reps, your max reps should come down. So let me use this as the example here. I look, day 1 back squat, I'm doing 90 pounds, and I do it 11 times. Great, I write down that 11 right there. The following week, I have a little bit heavier weight now because I'm working off of 90%, and I do it 7 times. Week 3, heavier weight again, I'm at 95s, and I do it 4 times. Then we have what we call deload, and deload pretty much means that we turn our training volume and load and weight down. We turn the intensity down, we turn everything down. So if we look at the auxiliary programming in here, and I'll come back up to using day 1 and Monday, you have some letters and some numbers. A1 means you're starting out with your first movement of the first piece of work that you're doing for the day. First letter of the alphabet, first number in the alphabet. So A1, I'm going to do a pull-up. Again, everybody here is doing this at a different level. So you may do a ring row, or you may do a bent over row, or you may do an assisted pull-up or banded pull-up. You may even do a weighted pull-up if you're more advanced. You're in charge of that. This is a basic outline to follow. You're going to need to fill in the blanks and write in the blank spaces. We have a variable here. So if we watch my arrow, it says 3 to 5. We want to do repetitions in that 3 to 5 range, meaning the first time we do this, the first set, let's say we do 5, we feel really good. Well, the next time we come back, we only do 4. I still want you to feel good. The third time we come back, we only do 3. I still want you to feel good. That's your rep range. Now let's pretend you do 37,000 again, and it's too light. It's too easy. We want to find some degree of difficulty in every single set and every single rep. Not failure, not max effort, not max load, not max intensity. But this is a 3-month training program. So we'll be starting this month 4, month 5, and month 6. We'll introduce front squat and some other lifts next month. But for this month, it's back squat on day 1, it's strict press on day 2, and it's deadlift on day 3. Working the same progression, working the same numbers based on your maxes. Your maxes are going to be different in the back squat, the press, and of course the deadlift. So we go A1 pull up 3 to 5 times on a variable. A2 push up 5 to 20. Well, that's a huge difference. Well, again, we're working with different levels, different variables here, right? So you may only do 5 in the beginning. The following week you come back, you may end up doing 10, right? Again, progressively building towards increasing your overall strength and doing it without maxing out your central nervous system. So if we talk about high rep, high volume training for a specific event or a specific experience or a race, we might dial in our intensity 30, 60, 90 days around that event or that experience. But for most of us who just want to maintain some very nice muscle tone, some leanness, some happiness, some glow, and some, really just great feeling exercise program, and this is what we're going to do, right? You can always turn up the volume when it comes to how hard you're going to push yourself during some of these exercises and workouts. So A2, 5 to 20, great. There's a variable there again. If you go over that, we may need to make it more challenging for you. Maybe it's unbroken on your 20. Maybe you have a deficit, so you're going to have a plate underneath your hand and you're going to have to go a little bit lower. Maybe you put a vest on, right? Again, scaling up or scaling down. Then run or row 2 minutes. Well, most people don't have rowers at home, and if we're teaching this to be an at-home training program or a travel program, then option 1 is always going to be to row because it's more challenging. Option 2 would be to run. Again, variable, bicycle, swim, right? Coach Frank, you could do this with pull-ups, push-ups, and a swim. You can find ways to introduce it. Stephanie, you could do it with a low-intensity weighted backpack hike. So instead of running or even rowing, you could put on a backpack or one of your vests and walk. But the equivalent is about 2 minutes, okay? We then do that for 3 rounds. Now we're going to skip ahead. And we're going to go to week 2 here. Obviously, we're increasing the back squats. Obviously, we're increasing the degree of difficulty on the reps. But now we've added an element. Now we have A3. So again, we're just adding one more piece to it. So A1, A2, A3. There's a variable there, 15 to 25. Walk, rest, 2 minutes. Okay, now this time we're going to do it for 4 rounds. So we've added around to it. So after a week of training like this, you've probably got a little bit stronger. You've got a little bit more adapted to, you know, some of the pain you're having from your muscles being sore, and you're ready to kick up that volume. Okay, day 2, conditioning. Low, 30 to 45 minutes, strictly up to you. If you're training for a hike or an event, you might add a little bit of weight to this. Day 3, we're working on presses. Weighted lunge. So what does that mean? That means that we're going to carry or hold some type of dumbbell or possibly a barbell or a PVC or something that's just going to make it a little bit more challenging than a regular lunge. If we're scaling down, it's regular lunge. Well, it's 6 to 8 each leg. There's a variable there. You're going to walk 6 to 8 lunges. Again, if you have any kind of knee injury or possibility limitations, I like the reverse lunge. I like the step back lunge. And if you go into your exercise library, you'll see that in the lunge section where you're actually stepping backwards. Remember, all of the exercises that we're doing, all the exercises you see in the programming are going to have a video to go with it, except you're going to see me jump over here to a tribal push-up. Right? And sometimes we've used the terminology of commando push-up, or we've used the terminology of seal push-up. But for this purpose, for us, we're tribers. So we're going to call this the tribal push-up. And we'll have a separate video on what that looks like. We go to burpee, big variable there, 5 to 10. Well, the difference for some people that are advanced or intermediate or beginners, that's a huge difference, right? So again, you're scaling based on your needs. And then there's a plank, 30 to 45 seconds. Now, instead of running or rowing like we did on day 1, we have a slightly different variable here. This is a walk or rest. You can rest sitting down, or you can rest walking, which is more considered active recovery. Day 4, we have rest and recovery. But this is more of an active recovery day. So this would be where you would swim, or you would stretch, or you would walk, or you would bike. But the intensity is so small that it doesn't affect you and it doesn't hurt you the way that these other 2 days have. Day 5, we're back in it. We're deadlifting. And let me just pause here for a second. When we talk about these lifts, these 5-3-1 strength lifts, where you have 3 sets of 5, 3 sets of 5, 3 sets of 5. Before you get into these sets and these weights, you're obviously going to warm up. But just in case you didn't know, you're going to warm up with what we call movement prep. So if it's a squatting day, you're going to air squat. You're going to do some lunges, some lower extremity moves. You're going to work your legs. It's an upper body day. You're probably going to do some push-ups or some up dogs or some down dogs. Once you get into your general warm-up, you're then going to go into the movement prep, which is doing the movement itself, the press, the squat, and the deadlift with the barbell itself, just the barbell. And you might do that somewhere in between the 1 to 3 set range. And you're going to do your build-out sets, and your build-out sets will be in the 1 to 2 range. Then you're ready. Then your body and your mind is primed to go in and attack those next 3 sets. 99% of the time, you're going to be resting in the 2 to 3 minute range, never longer, unless you're getting ready for that plus, right? Especially if you're getting ready for it in some of the more challenging lifts like the squat. The difference between squatting 20 reps at your body weight and pressing 20 reps at any weight is significant. So understand the variables in those separate lifts. Okay, we got rest, recovery, cycle, bike, walk. Here we go, day 5, we're deadlifting, right? Here we go, close grip bench. We got a little bit of bench press in there, right? We haven't added that in yet. And if we look back on day 3, you have some pressing there. So for those of you guys who may be totally new to programming and how it works, again, unless you're being specific to an event or an experience, or you might even have some kind of injury, then what we all need is general physical fitness, aka general physical preparedness, aka GPP. And GPP is used for us who are not 18, 19, or 20 years old, who are getting ready to go out and play college football, or possibly even training for an Ironman. It's just stuff that we can do 10 to 11 months out of the year, 3 to 5 days a week, and it's going to reduce our lowering heart rate. It's going to make us feel good, and we can do it just about anywhere and any place. So with GPP, right, we're going to take close grip bench press on the barbell. We're going to then do some dumbbell alternating bicep curls. We're then going to do some dips, and the variable on the dip would be the difference between doing full dips and possibly bench dips. You're going to follow that scale accordingly. Walk, rest, 2 minutes. Day 6, this is an active day. I don't even say the word active recovery, but this is a day where you might go run a mountain or a peak. You might go out to the track and run some sprints, but nothing you do is going to be scheduled or programmed. This is where my athletes have to understand that this is free time. This is fun time. This is sports. This is basketball, baseball, football. This is hockey. This is doing all kinds of stuff. So you pick. The idea is that you break a sweat. Day 7, 0. 0, 0, 0. Nobody should be training 7 days a week unless you're specific to that sport or that event. Nobody should. Your body needs to rest. Your mind needs to rest. Your central nervous system, which you hear me talk about a lot, the CNS system, especially for men and males over the age of 35 to 40 years old, because we're the ones that have taxed our body for so many years. We're the ones who have built up this massive amount of adrenaline and had this cortisol come into our life, and our testosterone went down. It's like a bad Bloody Mary mix, right? All those combinations together are what's wrong with us, and I hate to say the word wrong, but what's challenging to us. Whereas when we're a little bit younger, or we're even a female, there's a reason why females live a lot longer than us guys, is because we just go, 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 go until we don't go any longer. So day 7 is a day where you don't do anything. This is not heated yoga. That is not a rest day. Even yoga is not a rest day. It is rest, relax, recover. It's schedule your next week's training assignments, because if you don't have these assignments scheduled, guess what? You're not going to just miraculously wake up and say, oh, it's time for me to do my 5-3-1 strict press. So take the time to schedule your next week's training assignments. And then, of course, meal prep, taking a little bit of time to go to the grocery store, cooking some food, putting it in the refrigerator, and getting it prepared for the week. All right, so we fast forward a week, and we're not going to go over all these things because, again, these are in your library. You can go over them, but I want you to go over the structure for a moment. So we get in and we do our dynamic warm-up. You have 3 different dynamic warm-ups to choose from. We get into what we know we're doing, which is our back squat, and we've already possibly entered our percentages and numbers in pencil or pen right next to it, or we've downloaded an app. And there's a 531 app. There's some free ones. There's some $1.99 ones. Doesn't matter. Just find one that you like. You can handle the interface. You punch in those numbers, and then it'll spit back out your progression. So you find your 1 rep maxes in the gym. You find them somewhere. You might even do this with somebody that you know who's going to do something similar to the same program. And then you punch in your 1 rep max back squat and strict press and deadlift and bench press. It calculates the 90%. It then calculates the structure of your percentages. And then when you're done, when you hit the plus, you put your last numbers in, it'll then calculate the strength that you've gained. So it'll even show you what you could possibly 1 rep max now. Not that important until the end of the month. So if we fast forward to month 5 and month 6, we've now progressively added 5 pounds to our upper body and 10 pounds to our lower body lifts. Automatically, we're doing that without having to test, right? We don't need to test and retest every single month. But if this is a 12-week cycle, and some of us do this 1 to 2 times a year, which I know I do, and I recommend it. And if I'm teaching my kids who are still young, 10 and 8, we're going to do something like this, the Windler Strength Program, because it's safe and it's effective, and you can see how you're going to get stronger over the course of weeks. So progressively each week, we get a little bit more challenging here, right? We're at our percentages. You're using the app or you're writing it down. You're just using a calculator for all you guys out there. You take your 1 rep max, you multiply it by 0.90, and that is then your actual 90% score that you're going to use. All right, so we get to 4 rounds here on week 2. We've kicked it up a notch, and we have our first letter B. Yeah, if you have the letter B in your name anywhere, congratulations, this is for you. Not really. So the B is the next letter in the alphabet after the A's are done. So you've done A1, A2, A3, walking rest 2 minutes, and you've done that for 4 rounds. Now you're done with that. You may take a 3 to 5 minute break. You may take a 2 to 3 minute break. But this is where you're now going to possibly go and get a supplement or some kind of natural energy, like some fruits or coconut water, or you might even make a tailwind shake. Whatever's happening at that time, whatever was working for you, maybe it's a Gatorade or a Powerade, not a Powerade. There's corn syrup in Powerades. But it's something that you're taking a break, because you've probably been training for 35, 45 minutes now. And you only have about 5, 10, 15 minutes left. but you might need just a little bit to get you through that so you don't crash, okay? So we get into the B, and the B's are always going to be different and smaller than the A's, right? So the B is 50 ball slams for time. Awesome. Go into your library, find out what a ball slam is. There's a burpee alternative. Ooh, that's for the challenging guys there, right? So if the 50 ball slams is a little too simple for you, kick it up a notch and do the 50 burpees for time. Day 2, we get into jump rope. That's up to you, 5 to 30 minutes. Day 3, we're working on some box step-ups. Really important, not box jumps, but step-ups. This is single leg modality that's going to build the strength on both left and right legs, on your lower extremities. So you're going to be able to isolate. So if you're nursing a hip or you have some kind of injury, or you're possibly just a ton weaker on that weaker side, really important for you. Burpee high jump, again, 6 to 8. If you need to put in a scale or a variable, just think about matching the movement. So if I'm doing a burpee off the ground, possibly I'm doing push-ups. Or I might even be doing a press. Or I might even be doing some kind of walkout push-up. If I'm injured and I'm not doing that, then I might switch it up and do something lower extremity, like a lunge, or add something to that. Push-up plank, again, in the library, those are challenging, not just a push-up and not just a plank. And we're doing that for time. So we talk about time versus task, right? So this would be a task, doing your 3 sets of 5. This would be time. You're working for that time. Know the difference between time versus task and understand that they're equally important, especially for training for endurance. I've done a couple long distance ultra marathons and some 24-hour stuff, and I can't train like that. I can't train my mind to say, you know what, I'm going to go out and run 20 miles. But I can train it to say, you know what, I'm going to go run 3 hours. I know that sounds crazy, but sometimes I have to go back and forth. Sometimes you have to trick your brain. All right, here we go. Next day, rest day. Swim, stretch, walk, bike, very similar to the day above. We get in here, bent over row, dumbbell deadlift, right? The DB stands for dumbbell, walking rest, 4 rounds. Part B, we're doing some stretching mobility, up dog, down dog. Day 6, optional conditioning, right? We've been training now for about 12 days. Some people might say, hey, I'm not ready for a rest day. I want to kick it up a notch. I got a rest day tomorrow. I want to hit one more day. So optional conditioning, 45 minutes, you choose, break a sweat. And then you have the option, of course, of playing a sport, going fishing, doing some yoga, some golfing, some bike riding, or some gardening. And if you do all of those in a day, please send me a video because I'd love to have you on my next show. All right. Following day, rest, recover, food prep. Again, awesome. We're now into week 3. Week 3 is our hardest lifting week on the 5-3-1. And I can see right here that we get up all the way into 95%. So 95% of your 1 rep max done it multiple times is extremely challenging. So just understand you might need to warm up a little bit longer here, especially because you've been training for 2 weeks straight and you're starting to see a little bit of fatigue. But by the end of this week, you're going to be ready for this deload. You're going to be ready to say, all right, I need some lighter reps. I need some weight. And we all do. And that's how the strength training principles work. We work for an extended period of time, and then we bring it back. And what that allows us to do is progress forward in our strength training, in our weights, and that's ultimately how we get stronger. So we're now doing some maxes as well, right? We got a pull-up max, we got a push-up max. I want you to write these numbers down. I want you to see how you're improving. Because let's pretend we do a push-up max the 3rd week of every month of this 3-month cycle. You're going to see a significant increase, especially if you're doing push-ups throughout the weeks. And if we look at what we need to do, right? So many people are so concerned with like, I need something new. I need something new. I hate to say it, but I don't, because I don't want anything new. Because nothing new works. You want to squat, you want to press, you want to pull. You want to run, you want to row, you want to bike, you want to play sports, you want to be functional, you want to move, you want to be able to stay free from injury, and you want to continue to do that. All right, so don't think I need something new. Think you need something consistent, and you don't need to always hit a personal record. Sometimes when we say maxes, the next time we do this, you may regress, right? And then you got to start to look at, hey, am I training too much or am I not doing the right stuff? So when it's time for a max, give it 100%, give it all you got, write it down, and store it. Scalability is the same. If you ring row and you max, it's the same thing as if somebody pull-ups and they max. So just understand, don't worry too much about what movement you're doing. Just know that you're pulling for a max, you're pushing for a max. And then we get into some leg raises. Okay, we're rowing here, optional row or run, obviously. It's much more challenging to row than it is to run, which is why you get the 5-minute difference. Okay, next up here, press, walking weighted lunge, 20x, that just means 20 times. DB means dumbbell. Burpee box up, jump rope, double under here. There's some people who are scaling. So you may do a single under jump rope or a double under jump rope. And you can see here there's a scale of about 5-to-1. We're resting longer than we have before. We're resting 3 minutes now. Why? Because we're at massive amounts of volume, weight, and load. So we need to rest longer. And then we're doing this for 5 rounds. So I got to say, day 3, week 3, is probably the most challenging day that you've seen so far. Following day, skill day, big warm-up, barbell only, muscle clean. So now we're getting into the Olympic lifts. And in the next few months, you're going to start to see an increase in Olympic lifting so that you understand it from the ground up and so that you can watch more videos in the library and practice it yourself. Start out with a PVC stick or a broomstick, right? If you are a coach and you're coaching kids or you're coaching anybody, make sure you start out with a PVC or a broomstick so that you understand the movement itself before you get into weight. And it's a great thing to teach kids because they really learn these lifts so that when they get older, they do it. They're able to do it in high school and possibly college or even when they get older than that. It's an Olympic lift for a reason. The Olympic lifts, the clean, the snatch, and the jerk are all Olympic lifts because it gets you in the utmost powerful position in anything else you can do. You can't do enough push-ups or burpees or swimming or running that's equivalent to lifting the load of a barbell. And all Olympians, regardless if they're Olympic lifters, all Olympians, from Michael Phelps on to track stars, on to gymnastics, are doing some shape or form of the Olympic lifts. So make sure you start to really dig into those. Okay, we got the tribal push-up. We're going to come back to that, but just know it's there. At some point, you're going to do this massive tribal push-up. We got 1 hour walk or hike unplugged. Well, now it's time to dive into the mental training, right? Now it's time to say, I've done all this work over the past 21 or so days. Well, now I'm going to go out and I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to go for a hike, but I'm going to do it unplugged. And when I say unplugged, I mean completely clear, detached, and disconnected. No phone at all. If you want to put your tracker on and put it in the back of your backpack, but it's no phone at all. No music, no phone, possibly even nobody. And that's where we're really going to be able to break through the most, is when we're listening and paying attention to ourselves. Plus, we need it at this point. We've been training for all these days, 21 days in a row. It's time for a big rest and recovery, and do that with a long walk. Don't time it. Don't try to figure out the best track. Just go out and walk for an hour. If you got a stopwatch on, turn around when you get to 30 minutes and come back. Following day, rest, relax, recover, schedule training assignments, meal prep, nap, and meditate. Oh, we've introduced a little meditation. And again, if you go back into the library, you can see some meditation tips. There's obviously a lot of third-party meditators out there who will teach you how to meditate. You can download these apps. But let's start here. I'm going to keep it really simple. We'll save this for another module. You're going to breathe deeply in through your nose. You're going to hold your breath, and you're going to exhale out of your mouth. You do that 10 times. I call it the 10 by 10. If you can get your inhale, exhale, and holds on the front and back to equal roughly around 10 seconds, and you can do that 10 times, that's more than enough to introduce you and get you starting on your meditation practice. All right, here we go. Week 4, we call this deload. And this is a great feeling when you start to do these 5-3-1 programs, because you know you don't have to lift heavy for at least another 2 weeks. And it allows you to really rest and recover, which is where our muscles repair and our muscles grow. So just because we're resting and recovering this week in terms of our training doesn't mean that we're taking this week off. We're just not lifting the amount of weight and volume that we have before. So here we go, back squat. Ooh, 40%. We haven't done it that low before. We're doing that for 5, 50% for 5, 60% for 5. We go back again and we do some ring rows. Even if you've been doing pull-ups because you're a little more advanced, we're all doing ring rows. So for those of you guys who are not advanced, and that's okay, right? You are relevant to your own skill, and everybody progresses in a program like this. You've been now challenged to do a few more reps than you did before. right? So now you're doing that 10 range as well. We go to push-up 5 to 10. Again, simple, right? If you're advanced, maybe you slow it down, do some tempo stuff, but don't worry about the volume here. This is your chance to recover. Sit up, great. Rest 2 minutes, awesome, 3 rounds. Okay, first sprinting day, and I must put a disclaimer on sprinting that if you have bad knees or you have a bad back or you have any kind of injuries in your Achilles and you know you shouldn't be doing any kind of impact, then don't sprint, okay? All right, don't sprint, just don't do it. There's other ways you can sprint, whether you use a rower or a bicycle or an airdyne or something. But think about it like this. What we're trying to do here is increase our output, increase our lactic acid threshold. And what that allows us to do is train harder and further and more often without feeling the pain and the burn inside of our body. So you're going to sprint 5 sets at 50 meters, 4 at 100, 2 at 200, 1 at 400. Rest is equal to the time. So if it takes you 8 seconds to run 50 meters, then you're going to rest for 8 seconds. If it takes you 20 seconds to run 100 meters, you're going to rest for 20 seconds. If it takes you a minute to run 200 meters, you're going to rest for a minute. In between each series or each distance, you're going to rest somewhere between 3 to 5 minutes, okay? That's where you're going to get your rest in, not in between those individual sets. Okay, next day, we've introduced now the push press, so we're getting into the dynamic piece of our single press and our strength lift. Follow that up, barbell only, so anytime there's an asterisk, there's a to-do. 2 sets of 5, 1 set of 3, 1 set of 3, excellent. Kettlebell swing, 3 sets of 10. We're going to now go back to that month before and review the kettlebell swing that we've done. And then we're getting into some burpees. Well, here we have an acronym, EMOM, E-M-O-M. Every minute on the minute, you're going to do 6 minutes on minute 1, 6 burpees on minute 1, 7 on minute 2, 8 on minute 3, 9 on minute 4, and 10 on minute 5. That means as soon as you're done with that number, say 6, and it's only taking you 20 seconds, you rest for the remainder of the minute. Again, if we're scaling down, pick a number that's challenging for you. Anytime we do an EMOM, also known as every minute on the minute, we don't want to work past somewhere around 35 seconds total, unless we're doing a max, right? So I pick my set, I pick my movement, I pick whatever it is, and it takes me 59 seconds, and then I have to start at minute 2 again. That means you've made it too challenging. We call this also work rest. So you want to be somewhere in that 15 to 35 second range. Skill, pretty simple here, right? Bottom of the squat for 30 seconds on and 30 seconds off, so 5 minutes. So this doesn't mean that your workout is only 5 minutes. This means that of all the skill and all the work that you've done this entire month, that's all you're doing, which means you should still warm up. You should still do some kind of mobility work if you have any kind of injuries or you're just really tight. And you still should possibly do some kind of walking. But it doesn't mean that you add this to this day. Or it doesn't mean that you say, all right, now I'm going to go and run 10 miles because today's my day to only do this. It means use that as part of your program for the day, but do not add that or do not make it more challenging than it needs to be. All right, here we go. Our first Olympic lifting day. We're going to keep it simple. 3 letters, A, B, and C. 3 position clean, and you'll see that in the video diary. Hang power clean, you'll see that again. Deadlift plus hang power clean plus front squat. Okay, A, B, and C. Next up, day 6, we have 30 to 45 minutes of low to moderate intensity in terms of our conditioning. And then, of course, the 28th day, smile, you deserve it. Congratulations, enjoy the moment, reflect on how hard you have worked. The only easy day was yesterday.